Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. Okay, so for some of you, I feel like this might be a continuation for one of the readings that I've done here recently. You'll probably know if that's the case, if that resonates, but picking up on a masculine energy. And I feel like he's run into his own karma. And I'm hearing like the sound of somebody running into like straight up iron, just like I'm hearing that clank, that like thunk, and then them just kind of, falling over. And I do feel this masculine is in a lot of pain, and he does not know how to process through this pain and through this landscape. And the landscape is relationships and fairness and Libran kind of stuff. So having like a fair and balanced conversation and looking at things fairly, because he has some kind of orientation within himself, some kind of mindset, some kind of pattern, something that is like a restriction within him that he enacts in a relationship, and it causes him this pain because it's not right and it's not fair. And he's supposed to be learning that, and he's supposed to be untangling that. And he really has run face first into his own problem that is very much self-created. I do think that he is sad. Like I just heard sobbing. He's like very sorry. I don't know how he's presenting himself to you, but I do feel he is genuinely very heartbroken, and he is unsure of, what's going on. But it's because he can't be honest with himself. But he is unsure of that. So he's unsure about what to do. He wants some kind of new beginning. And I feel like this is what brings him to your living room, your telephone. I feel like he's kind of presenting some kind of sob story, but he is misrepresenting himself. And I feel like he in some way wants you to get involved. And I feel like the thing we're going to circle back to here is he's got an if-then statement here, where he's presenting his relationship, he's presenting this situation, and he's presenting this, I want to say woman, although flip the genders if you need to. This is the way it's coming through, and I don't want the message to get confusing. But he's presenting his partner here, or his ex-partner, I think, in a certain light, and it all shapes up from his perspective into this like if-then statement. And I feel like there is a part of him that's doing this on purpose, even though I do think those reasons, I just heard the word denial. He's very much in denial about something. I think he's in denial about his feelings and the way that he felt about her, and he's in denial about his own actions, because there is some kind of wanting this relationship, but not doing the things needed to preserve it, not acting in accordance with that priority or like value, and that having a consequence here. That again, I'm seeing somebody's legs get all like tangled up and them kind of tripping and falling over. And that's the karma here. Like I said, this is a masculine who has run straight face first into his own karma, and he needs to kind of figure himself out. But that's not what he's doing. Even in conversation with you, even if it kind of, I think that you probably feel sorry for him because there is some kind of like sorrow. You can tell that he's hurting, and he is confused as well, and feeling he's ramping up his own frustration because his if-then statement is wrong. And really, truly, if you're going to get involved in this at all, that's what he needs from you. He needs you to flesh out that his premise, his foundation here is incorrect, and that is why he's hurting himself, and that's why when he acts based on his premise, it doesn't have the outcome that he says it should have and that he thinks it should have. But I think potentially you and other people here, because I don't think that you are in proximity of his partner. I don't think you have the same kind of relationship with his partner. I don't think his partner has told you their side of the story, and so you don't have the truth here in this situation. And the partner knows that the premise that he is presenting to you is incorrect. And I think there's a question here looming of like, okay, so it sounds all very logical, and that's what he's doing here. It all sounds very logical, right? Like, so she should, and it feels like hear him out, or she should not have whatever boundary she has. But ask him, well, maybe don't ask him, but this is the question in my mind. It's like, so then why can't you do it? Why do you need me to intervene for you? Why isn't she taking your calls? So, there's an answer to that question. And the answer to that question is that because she was there. You weren't there, and whoever else he's given his sob story to was not there. And so whatever he says happened in their mind happened, and they can see that he's sorrowful. And I think that or like very sad or upset or feeling hurt or betrayed. Because for some, I think he's painting himself as the victim and like he feels heartbroken, but he is the one who betrayed her and did something here very shocking or like very sudden to her. And that's not coming across. And so if and until he can get to that pay dirt, that's what he needs to be addressing here, then he knows he can't approach her because she was there. And so the same thing that's flying here, it's not going to fly with her. And what's going on here is when he's telling this story to you about, well, I feel like it's something like I didn't know, and that's wrong. Or just absolutely unacceptable, because it's something like, I didn't know you weren't supposed to cheat in a relationship, or I didn't know that this effect that every single person alive knows would be detrimental would have that detrimental effect on her. And I think if you were able to flush out and ask questions of him, and if he could answer honestly, I think you would eventually get to the root of it, which is on some level, his statement and his viewpoint is, how dare she? And he wants you to collude with him, and he wants to get you on side, and he wants you to agree with him of how dare she. And he's trying to present it as logical. He's giving you his if-then statement and saying, so don't you agree with me, right? So if this is what happened, and she didn't do this or she didn't do that, then don't you agree with me that she's in the wrong and she's being unreasonable? And you're like, well, yeah, if that happened. And he's able to kind of harness the attention in the room because he just points at the then part of the statement. Then it follows that she should do this, and she's not doing that. So she's the bad one, and we have to correct that. But nobody ever looks at his if part of the statement. If this is truly what happened, because it's not. It's not what truly happened. And so he's evading here. This is evasive tactics. And this is, in a sense, playing out like this is somebody who doesn't want to take accountability. But as I was saying, if you could flesh out the questions and really ask him, okay, what about this? What about that? You kind of get that his outrage is like, can you believe that she had the agency? The audacity to assert her agency in some way. And it feels like she said no. She said no to him. She said no to their relationship. She said no to some kind of treatment, or she took control over her own resources, because it feels like maybe that had to do with money. By the way, I'm sorry if you can hear my washer is running in the other room and it's very loud and it's possibly going to get louder. But I'm on a roll here with this, so I don't want to stop. So yeah, it's, that she said no, and it feels like to do with her apartment, where she said, no, my name's on the lease, I pay the rent here, you have to go. Or like her car or her finances, or again, her body and she gets to decide who she's in a relationship with. And that's kind of his worldview that's being fleshed out here. Can you believe that she had the agency to say no? He feels on some kind of deep level, and I'm not saying that he goes around thinking that he's a misogynist or anything like that, but on some deep fundamental level, he feels like she shouldn't get to say no to him. And really his biggest gripe, and this is why he's having the troubles he's having, this is his karma that he needs to work through. His biggest gripe is that she's not a Barbie. And everybody around him isn't a Barbie for him to play with, where he gets to say both sides of the conversation. Like, well, then I did this. And then she responded in that way, which is the way that I want her to respond. So then he never has to observe himself or change his behavior. And he has like total control over everything because he wants to control the frame. And I feel like that's in a sense what he's trying to do. This is actually very controlling, and it's very, there's pressure here that he's kind of trying to apply. He's trying to back her into a corner, because I'm seeing like the energy behind this. And it's like he's trying to back her into a corner by feeding people around him. And I think if these are shared people, like people that are also around her, bonus points, because he wants to get everybody on his side with this fake story in order to corner her. So she has she can't stand up for herself. And she doesn't, then she feels gaslit by the group, by this pressure to ignore the truth and to have to step into his shared fantasy. So this is narcissistic. That's something that narcissists do, and I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm not qualified to do that. But they present a shared fantasy, and everybody has to get sucked into their shared fantasy, and everybody plays the role that they then want them to play. And even if this person's not a narcissist, narcissism is like it's an issue about like defense mechanisms. And he is really in denial about himself and what he's done here in the situation and why he did it, and the fact that he needs to change. So I feel like you have in some way, either you are the partner here, and maybe this is like validation, because it feels like you're being surrounded by dark forces. Like that's like, I'm just seeing shadows on the wall, like spooky shadows that are kind of cornering you in. And it's like a soft power that this masculine, and it's a social power as well, that he's trying to weaponize against this, I want to say woman, again, flip the genders if you need to, but he's trying to weaponize that. And it's really just to overpower her. He doesn't want the truth to prevail, because the truth is that that there's no fairness here, but he doesn't like fairness. He wants to be in control. So that's something very different. And I feel like for a lot of you, you might even have been a person that has got sucked into this dynamic in some way. Like you believed his story, because I think he cried, or I think that he acted kind of like a wounded, animal or something, just like he didn't know what to do. And I think that you felt bad, because also we grow up in a society and a culture that like men are taught not to share their feelings. And so if you can clearly see that a man is dejected and sad, and he definitely is, but he's sad that he's lost control of her, and he's sad that he's lost control of the narrative, and that he's probably not going to get what he wants out of this situation. It's a very selfish kind of sorrow. It's a very selfish kind of sadness, because I feel like he had every possibility to care about another person. And even if she cottoned on pretty quick and like got out of there, still he grew up in a culture. He's had people around him in the past, but it just feels like he wants to be stubborn, and he doesn't want to have to look at himself, and he doesn't want to have to change, and he doesn't want to have to, this is all like a very egoic kind of fantasy, but it's more than a fantasy, because he's really trying to like make this a thing. Like actually make this happen. He's not just fantasizing about, her taking him back and everything working out in his favor. He's actually trying to make it happen. He's trying to bend the truth and like bend reality. It's taking a lot of energy. And so there's forethought here. There is manipulation. There are tactics here. And I think, again, for some of you, you're feeling confused about this. For some reason you're feeling confused because, maybe you feel like you were a fool, like because you were taken in by this. Yeah. And that there's some kind of functioning dysfunction, or that you were trying to like get away from some kind of troubled time. Maybe he told you that she was heartbroken. I feel like he's doing all of the ego defense mechanism things. So I think he's maybe projecting as well onto her, like his own sadness and like, or vulnerability. Like there's a warping of the emotions in this situation where I think he's maybe projecting his missteps and intentions outwards onto her in order, again, to avoid. And he's projecting her genuine sorrow and hurt and feelings of betrayal onto himself, or he's allowing people, he's setting up his story, his like if side of the story, if this is what happened. And it seems to me like he's basically creating a straw man out of himself instead of actually doing the work to say, wow, I really messed that up. And I need to, first of all, get myself in line, and I need to kind of give myself a talking to. And then I need to tuck tail, and I need to go back to her in my softness and in my vulnerability. And I need to tell her how sorry I am that she had to deal with that version of me. And I need to really fucking mean it. Like instead of doing that, he's creating this straw man version of himself first in his mind. And this is a defense mechanism because he doesn't want to have to be confronted with who he is and what he actually did and the actual repercussions. And that possibly, something here can't be salvaged between the two of them because she's seen too much, or whatever this was too bad. And the relationship, because he's learning about relationships with this Libra, that fairness, that trust, that partnership has in some way been ruined. But I feel like he's taken it a step farther, and he's trying to create a straw man version of him in the group. He's trying to get the group to believe a false version of him and then use that to make a logical statement, because straw man, as a lot of you know, that's a logical fallacy. And so he's leading with logical fallacies here. And so there's a lot of holes in his story, like something here doesn't really add up, but he's clinging very tightly to his own straw man here. And for some of you, the genders are flipped here. And I'm just going to keep reminding you of that. I don't want this to get confusing. I feel like for most of you, the genders are in this way, in this scenario, but let's not, like, women can be this way too. And I think for some of you, like, it might be switched. So again, take this however it resonates with the gender stuff. So that's what this is. It's this kind of straw man energy, but it's a shared fantasy where he's sucking people into his shared fantasy where he gets to say who is who and who did what and who should be doing what, instead of allowing the truth to speak for itself. And so I feel like that's what's going on. And it's because, okay, so now is when we have a lot of the major arcanas coming out on his side of things, because now we've got the Fool, the Judgment, and the Moon card. But I'm zeroing in, the Judgment and the Moon came out together. So this is, there is a deep emotion here. And it wouldn't surprise me if you can see it, even if he's trying to I feel like he's trying to maybe appeal to some kind of traditional gender roles or something, like, and he's pointing at that, and he'll have the conversation about that. And you can sense that there's like some kind of deep sadness here, but he's doing that instead of talking about the emotions that are taking place here in this situation, which again is what he needs. Like, I feel like it's best like if he was able to do this with a therapist, because I kind of feel that this man's wound pretty tight, and that this might even be like kind of dangerous territory to like kind of get into. But I do think the group can do a better job here, because it feels like a group around this person or this masculine, whoever this is, can do a better job of just simply, questioning. Like, there's ways in which this obviously doesn't add up. And I'm hearing just with basic empathy, just with like, well, if I was in her position, I know I wouldn't have done that unless this or that. Okay. The other thing that I want to say about this partner, because again, I don't think that you know her as well, or she's not as close. She's not emoting actually everywhere. She's not, and I think part of that is because of the safety here. This is a group that seems like pretty readily they have rallied around this masculine or whoever's doing this straw man thing. And like they have not challenged it or questioned it or anything. I think it's a safety issue for her. It's not that she doesn't have emotions. I think that she doesn't feel safe. There's some kind of I don't know reason here, but I think what you know about her is that she's too good for this masculine. I don't know if you would put it exactly those terms, but I think that you kind of see her as being out of his league in some way. Like there's something about them where it's like they're both attractive or something like that, but she's attractive and she has her shit together. And I don't know how that like sums up for you, but she is attractive and she's kind of the whole package. And you do know that on some level. And that is, I feel like maybe there's emotions here. Yeah, judgment. It might be a judgment of your own emotional space or like other people in this group, because it's like once he had a problem with her, everybody here was just very eager to believe that she was illogical and crazy, because he's setting up this logical fallacy, and everybody kind of jumped on his side is what I'm getting, like jumped on his bandwagon without really much discernment or much of an investigative process, or even just the wherewithal to say, and this could be because like you, if you're a third party witness or somebody that he's tried to pull in because he's trying to gang up on her is what he's trying to do. He's saying that he's not. He's saying that she's being unreasonable. He's got to say something like that in order to convince people. Because if he just said, let's go gang up on my girlfriend that I've already hurt once, people in their right mind and heart and spirit are going to say no to that. And he knows that. See what I'm saying? This is manipulative, and this is a man who is just getting away with it. He's just not at all being held accountable because he's sad, because he had an emotion, and everybody kind of knows that it's big for a man to show emotion or something, but they're not actually helping him get to the bottom. They're helping him keep sick, and they're helping him make the problem worse. And it's because there's also a judgment energy on these people as well. There's some kind of deep buried emotion here as well. And I think it's in some way tied to this partner, because she seems to be attractive, but she seems to also have her shit together. And it's bringing up some kind of, maybe they also feel dependent on this partner if this is like a group or a family or something, and they don't want to lose this person as well. And they know that, I don't know. So say these two are a couple, and maybe this female partner married into this family. They don't want to lose her as well. So they feel like if they acknowledge the truth, like anybody in their right mind should leave, but actually there's a paradox here of like, help him get better. So it's a habitable environment for like her and maybe their kids or something. Like that's actually the best case scenario for her to be able to stay. But there's a fear here of like losing that, or it could be that it brings up some kind of other deep emotion. Like people just want to hate her. Some people here just want to hate her because maybe they're also feeling a type of way about themselves, or maybe even about this masculine or something like that. But he wants to have control over her emotions, and potentially he wants to have control over her body and over her home life. And so he's telling these lies in order to get people on side, because essentially whatever he's saying, it's crap. And even if elements of it are true, the holism of it, the whole context is crap. And if you boiled it down, it's really what he's saying. The subtext of it is, how dare she have any agency? How dare she use her agency to say no to me, to assert herself, to have an opinion, to demand equality, to want equality. But he, I think, knew the entire time, because he does a thing here where he tries to he tries to play the Libran dance, like the partnership dance. But he does it through Saturnian energy. He does it by trying to be the authority over it, or he does it by trying to be cold or restrictive. And I think this has to do with gender roles and some kind of like traditionality. He tries to strip everybody down. So now let's get into her energy here a little bit more, because what I'm seeing for her, so where he enters into this Libran space with Saturn, which is he's not an authority here. He might be trying to act like it, or he feels like just because he's the man, he's supposed to be the leader. That's the other thing, because he's like, well, can you believe that she's not following me? And really, it's nobody in their right mind would follow you because you don't know where you're going. This guy is basically just image managing things. That's what his straw man act is. He's trying to manage his emotions through managing his image, and he's not actually what he's saying that he is. And he's trying to cling so far like to his image. And that's why he knows he's not approaching her with the same energy. He's either not approaching her at all, or he's not approaching her with the same energy. And he's definitely not saying this same story to her because she was there and she knows better. And he knows that she's just easily going to poke holes through this and that they're not going to get anywhere. So he might just, because what he needs to do is tuck tail and say that he's sorry. And also that he's, I just heard like a moron, but genuinely, like he genuinely doesn't know how to do relationships. But he feels like he needs to be the leader. I don't know. It's very, very confusing here. So with her energy though, she has a way of, entering into this Libran energy, but it's with moon energy. It's much more natural for her. And it's very much on the inside. And I feel like that's, something that's important to note here, because, she is in her 9 of Pentacles energy. And the 9 of Pentacles card that I'm looking at is a very beautiful 9 of Pentacles. It's such a beautiful card, such joyous, like very happy. She looks very beautiful in this, very healthy, very self-fulfilled. And she is like kind of building herself up. And as a lot of people know, the 9 of Pentacles in a woman's energy, this is the energy that a woman is in before she levels up to the Empress. And so she's kind of ripe for the picking here. And I feel like this masculine saw that whoa, this is everything. But I do feel like there was some kind of blockage here with the 2 of Swords, that maybe he was like trying to get around, or he felt like she didn't see him as a partner or something. This is a guy who very much puts on a show in order to get whatever it is that he wants. And I feel like he slammed into her space in some kind of way with this Tower energy. And it could have even been that he, this could be a subconscious impulse, by the way, like where he did actually mean to do this, because he had feelings here, because he's showing up here as Pluto and Moon. Okay. And that's an intense energy in astrology. And if you don't believe me, you should look that one up. Okay. It's a very deep experience. Like if it's in his own chart, or even if it's like a synastry thing between their charts, this is a deep kind of energy. And so he was having these like deep emotions. And so he, I think in a way, sought to destroy her independence, this like beautiful energy that she was in order to have control over it. But he also at the same time recognized that she's kind of sending these signals. She's not sending signals because she's focused on herself. Because again, like I said, she's a partnership oriented person, but it's on the inside. And where she's always kind of known that she wanted to have this kind of equal partnership, focus on equal, because if you want to have an equal partnership at some point in your life, you have to build yourself up to the level that you want a partner at so that you can participate in fairness. So this is a woman who is taking responsibility for her space and what she's bringing to the table. She's mature in love and is focused on giving. And it's all very natural and sensitive, very, very sensitive in this like Libran space where he's like very hard and very cold, but wants to go barging in. That's kind of his energy. So they both don't have skin in the game, but he wants to act like he's got skin in the game in regards of this energy, but he's cold, restricted Saturn, made of iron, and she is soft moon energy. So of the 2 of them, she's the one that has exponentially been more hurt in this situation. I also think that she was very stunned and very caught off guard by who he was, because I think that he was talking the relationship talker. Again, it's the same thing. He tries to build this straw man of himself. I'm noble, I am this way, I'm that way. But then it'll fall through. It'll fall through because what he hasn't been spending his time doing is getting himself right and building a foundation. But then he feels entitled to the fruits of that, and he kind of buys his own bullshit here. And because he doesn't hardly get accountable, because I think he's just good at the facade and rallying people on his side, and he feels like it's like his one move. So if he can kind of do that, and he relies heavily on some nasty things in society to be able to do that, he expects to be believed as the man. and that's why he's like harkens. That is why he's so, I feel like this is a guy who's very rigid about traditions and gender's roles, and she should be in her role. He doesn't want to have to relate to her as a being, as a human being. He wants to relate to her as her role, and he wants to put her in a box, is really what I'm getting. He wants to restrict her movement, and in order to be, this is kind of the same energy of like that quote of, this is a person who tries to grow tall by cutting off the heads of others. They don't focus on themselves. They try to cut people down. That's what he's doing. But like, this is gendered and like in his relationship here. So there she was being all beautiful and focusing on herself and possibly not even wanting a relationship, or not having some kind of conversation that he was wanting her to have, or felt, and he maybe felt that it was her role. But he's conflating roles and feelings here. And that's a big thing about what this masculine is doing. I'm going to say that again. He's conflating roles and feelings here, because she doesn't mind playing her role, but she is going to have feelings, and she's trying to make sure the feeling space is right, and it's not right with him. And she's kind of discovered that in some way. And so I think maybe blocked him, or she's, therefore that's why she's not having a conversation, or that's why she's not open to having a relationship, is because she has correctly ascertained that these two people are not a match. These two people are not on the same page. They don't bring the same energy. And he is not her Libran energy. He's not capable of being in that Libran energy. She has figured out rightly that this is a man who's unhinged. For some, like, he just flies off the handle. She knows that he's got some karma to work out. And this is somebody who is very good and natural in a Libran kind of space. And she is the leader. But so this is part of the karmas that he has to work out. She's the leader and he can't follow her. She's the leader because if he could see her as a person and not just the role that he's trying to say that she should be. And he's also basically saying that she should have feelings for me because I'm a man and I'm in her space, so she should have feelings for me and she should acquiesce and she should be doing this. And she's not, because I don't think that she, or if she did have feelings for him, it's like been stunned, or hurt or wounded or interrupted here. So she's blocked herself off. So be very careful, because I feel like he is maybe wanting you to have some kind of initiation between the two. Well, if he's done something horrible to her, you can understand how it would be traumatic for you to get these two people in a room together or try to talk to her on his behalf. Plus, he's going to have you looking stupid, because that what he's saying is happening is not what's happening here. And I feel like that's maybe, tower energy. And I feel like that's part of your karma here. There's a judgment energy on this where it's like, okay, I need to stay out of it. Like, I have a lot of feelings, and some of you are empaths. So you're wanting to like solve his problem so that the pain stops, but he's the problem, not his relationship. He's the problem here. And so he has got to solve an internal problem with why he is the way that he is, and why I'm going to say it again. He conflates feelings with roles. And so he's saying these certain things and he kind of believes it in order to hold himself in this denial space. And so I feel like an empath, like just an empath, I'm not talking about an empath who happens to be a professional therapist or something like that. They don't have the skills. They're going to enable him. They're going to be a codependent, and they are actually being a flying monkey here. They're being like an extension of this person's controlling arm here to try to grab this person and suck them back into this like shared fantasy where nothing is real. And you have to agree that up is down and he is king, and he's not, and he's not fit to be. And that's what needs to get addressed here. If he wants to have a relationship in the dynamic, it would be very nice. I think a lot of women genuinely feel that it would be very nice to have a man who could lead in a relationship space, and hot too. A lot of them don't have the social skills and they don't have the emotional skills to be leaders in that space. We are more qualified and more fit to be leaders in that space, which I think is actually spirit looking out for us, because a lot of women don't mind submitting to somebody in certain arenas or in certain ways, because it mostly means that somebody's taken something off of your plate. And that's not what's happening here. He's not taking anything off of her plate. Okay. This is just, you have to pretend that everything is something that it's not. And she's not interested in doing that. And a healthy person, like, good on her, because a healthy person wouldn't be okay with doing that. But I feel like somehow, some way, I feel like for a lot of you, you're on the periphery of this, but on this masculine side. And masculine energy, keep in mind, is the doing energy. So this very well could be a feminine energy. These could both be females. These could both be males. The genders could be flipped, right? But somebody here has a lot of energy to like move away. And I think actually has received profound trauma and sadness from this space, but has a lot of energy to kind of rebuild. And I feel like this was really sad, because this person was like this feminine energy, the partner energy, whoever has like moved away from this person was like building up their own independence here. And I think that they were not treated fairly. And I think that they there's tower energy here. There's something he did that was really wrong. But I just think that he's minimizing. So like whatever lie he's telling you, I feel like the word just is thrown around. Well, I just didn't know, or I was just doing this. And he's trying to paint her as being crazy, illogical, and overreacting. Does that sound like somebody that loves you? Because she's none of those things. And he's also telling a lie here, because the thing that he's identified as the problem isn't the real problem. And he knows it. And he knows it. And she knows it too. And that's why he doesn't say that weird shit to her. He says it to you. And when he's saying it to you, by the way, just know that this is the energy. He's masturbating himself in front of you and in front of a group of people. I'm such a good person. I'm such a noble man. And it's lewd. It's lewd is what it is. Instead of just healing himself and actually admitting to himself what's going on here, he's preferring to stay in this fantasy and jerk it in front of a group of people here. That's what he's doing. That's the energy of what's going on. He's rubbing himself. That's what he's doing. And it's gross. It's honestly gross. And so she's the only one in her right mind. There's a healthy response to this kind of behavior. There's a recognition that something's not right here with this guy. And I feel like she's the only one in that space, in that energy, but people are ganging up on her. And that's his force. He's trying to use the force of a group and the force of a lie to bend her to his will. It's not love. It's not right. It's not sane. This is weird. This is on some weird shit. So she's let go here. And I do feel like there was love in this situation. And I feel like he's trying to paint her as being cold. He's trying to paint her as being Saturn. Oh, she's cold, or she's too rigid here, but she's not. There's literally no other way to deal with this. This is not a man in therapy. And even if he is, he's not being honest with his therapist. He's just doing it as like a routine to go through. So he's got one more person he can be lewd in front of on an energetic level. And it's gross. And so she's, has emotion here. The water has definitely been poisoned between the two of them. It's up to him to fix it. It's kind of one of those things where people misunderstand Libran energy. And I feel like this is another way that he's weaponizing this Libran energy, because he narrows the focus and he minimizes, right? Well, I just did this, or I just did that. He also identifies the wrong problem. Well, I just said this. That if you talk to her, she wouldn't say that that's the same problem. And the problem that she would identify is the kind of problem, he doesn't want to bring it up, because it's the kind of problem where not only would anyone in their right mind say, oh my God, she was right to move away from you. It's a problem that you would hold him accountable to now, because you're like, no, this has to change. I don't want you around me or all these people here doing what it is that you're doing. It's not right. You need to change this. And he doesn't want that kind of pressure. He's accountability allergic here is what's going on. So this is where he's working through his karmas in the Libran sense. He has this tit for tat kind of thing, and he narrows the focus. So here in this 30 minutes that we're talking, we're going to strip away all the context, is what he says, of what led us up here to this moment. And if I'm willing to talk, you got to be willing to talk. And if not, I'm going to frame wrongly. And he's doing it on purpose. He's going to frame wrongly in order to be able to say, well, you're not fair. Again, in order to rally the fair police around her. Oh, well, he's trying. He's trying to be fair. You won't even talk to him. No, if he was really in the mindset of fair, you have to broaden the time scale on the Libran energy, right? So instead of saying in this like 30 seconds, it's like way zoom out. You have to say in the first century, everything was skewed in his favor. So he's trying to, now that, if he's going to go run over to the second century where she's kind of progressed and gotten away from, he needs to have dealt with himself. And that's truly fairness. But he wants to say, well, it's not just me. No, it is. At this point, it is. He needs to fix this. It's not that she's a perfect being, but we can't anywhere get close to anything that she would need to work on in a relationship, because she's not safe. She's not safe. All he keeps doing is just being unsafe in an emotional way. He has very, very unsafe communication skills and relationship skills. There's no skills here. He has manipulation skills, control skills that he calls relationship skills. And then, and it's all narcissistic is what it is. Even if he's not a narcissist, which, if the shoe fits at this point, because narcissism is essentially an ego defense mechanism disease. And he lives there. He's in denial. He's projecting all over her. And all of that creates this kind of straw man of the situation, of their relationship, and of himself. And that's where he lives. And you can't deal with that because there's no truth in it. There's no reality in it. And so imagine you've got somebody in that energy that misrepresents the relationship, themselves, and the problem. And they're like, well, you won't talk to me. Yeah, because you're nuts. That's why. There's no getting anywhere. And he won't even admit it. This is a person that won't even admit it. So it is a waste of time. And he's trying to say that there's something wrong with her in the way that she loves. And that's why she's not talking to him. It's because she's cold and she's rigid. And then he minimizes his own part of it. And he's continuing to abuse her. That's what that is. That's abuse. He's continuing to harm her via his fantasy. He refuses to get real. And so you can't deal with this problem because only one person is dealing in reality. And not only that, but it's like, this is the use of force, really, is what it is. It's social force, but it's the use of force. With the people that he's got kind of, I'm seeing a villain, I'm seeing a cape, and I'm seeing that it's a very long cape, and it's circular in the back. And I'm seeing several people holding his cape in like this shadowy, dark energy. And those are his flying monkeys, but they're flying monkeys because they're so empathic. That's what it is. But they don't hold themselves accountable either. And these are people, and I feel like this is maybe part of their karma because these are people that are quote unquote empathic, for the abuser. And they're not at all empathic for the victim. They say that they're empaths and they're like, well, I'm such a bleeding heart for this guy. Can't you see that he's sad? And so why are you holding him to a standard? When actually love would hold somebody to a standard. And if you've worked with kids, you absolutely hold a kid to a standard. And that is love. You don't just, again, my dad used to say, I love you too much to let you act that way. Like that there's some weird quote unquote empath shit going on behind this masculine. That's just, it's codependent, it's enabling, it's unhealthy. And these are people that are, it's ego identity with them too. And I feel like they're in the same energy of denial and projection of their own like empathic traits because they are cowards and they're selfish. This is a kind of selfishness that masks as empaths these people around. Like, oh, well, I care for him so much, and I want him to be bleeding heart. But they define being an empath on how much empathy you have towards an abuser. And it's selfish because it's all about them. It's, look at me, aren't I benevolent? Look at me, I can see both sides. I'm both sidesing it. This is the benevolent centrist, the enlightened centrist, which is kind of a new face of evil that's like really, really risen up. Because see, look at me, I'm balanced. Because again, this is false. This is faux Libran energy as well. Because I can see both sides. Don't see both sides. Because this isn't a both sides problem. And you can't actually see both sides because you'd have to have the full context and you don't have it. And you've still chosen a side here. And it's really because there's a kind of love that needs to stop an abuser from being an abuser in order to shield somebody. And this is without getting sucked into victim, rescuer, persecutor dynamics. It's just, he needs to be questioned, his side of the story. And that's considered harming him because he'll like throw a fit. Acquainting this man with reality is considered harming him. So he's just allowed to stay in his fantasy unchecked and harm anybody that he wants around him so long as he does it with a soft tone. He's super enabled by these people. And if you say, you really shouldn't define someone's empathy based on how much bullshit they let somebody who's doing harmful things get away with, that's really unhealthy. Then they're liable to blow up on you. Say that you're unempathetic and that you are, you're not Libran, you're not fair, you don't see both sides. Both sides is not appropriate in every situation. And that's Libran energy when you pull out. And you look from a broader scale, that something hasn't been fair here for a long time, and it also hasn't been dealt with. And so that needs to be considered when you're judging these people's actions, right? And like what's going on. And also like, there's nothing wrong with staying the fuck out of it if you don't know what's going on here. So anyways, I feel like this is all kind of coming to a head here. This, somebody here had to just like kind of let go of something and leave and start some kind of new beginning. And they were really sad actually when they were doing it, but I don't think that they would show their emotion because a crazy person would do that. A crazy person would be vulnerable in a situation where they're not safe. And that's not who you're dealing with here. This partner is intelligent. They have the lay of the land. They know what the story is with this guy. So you shouldn't, if he's trying to say, let's go to therapy, let's talk this out, you should not do that with this guy. He's not in a healthy energy. And nobody should be forcing her to because you are putting her in an unsafe situation. And that is not nice. That is not a nice thing to do. So, Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and somebody here is feeling lacking. And I think that maybe they were trying to take control of the situation. There's a lot of control on this masculine side, like not just with him, but with the rescuers that he's like kind of brought in. And I think somebody here now, all of a sudden, they're kind of feeling lacking. And that's what they really needed to get in touch with. Because I think in the face of this partner, they also feel lacking. And they're definitely lacking in the situation. It's a functioning dysfunction is what I'm getting. They feel lacking in the situation because at the very least, they do not have both sides of the story here, but they have a full, solid opinion. And so there's some kind of wish fulfillment that they want, but they have to confront this. And this isn't just this masculine. This is everybody who came in to support him in quotation marks. They came in to group gang up on this like partner and call it benevolence. That's what they came to do. And they should never have done that. So these are people that need to cry. I think that they have like a lot of anxiety. I think that there's roles that are, feelings and roles get conflated here. And a lot of these people need to cry and they need to move away from each other in order to get some kind of freedom or some kind of wish fulfillment. Yeah, they're sneaking around here too, this partner energy who has a lot of strength, but the strength that this partner has, it is they can be strong when they need to. And I think that this masculine, that's what he's saying. Oh, can you believe that she has agency? And again, a healthy person would be like, I can't believe that you're upset that somebody has exercised their agency here. And to sick us on this person that's abuse. Like, for just them having an opinion or standing up to you. But this partner here that's gotten away, they have a vulnerability. They have a sensitivity here. But that vulnerability is not getting acknowledged here in the space at all because all of the quote unquote empaths, they are too busy empathizing with the abuser to look at the victim. Look at who's actually kind of bloodied and black and blue in this situation and alone. And I just don't have time for that. And somebody does need to tell people to knock it off in this situation. But if you do, you're walking into the hornet's nest because they're all a part of this big shared fantasy that this guy has kind of sucked them into. And people should kind of hold him accountable for that. I'm not saying that they should be mad, right? But, and feelings and the roles need to get in the same place here. Oh, you're feeling sad. Okay, well, what's your role in the situation? And his role is that he's fully responsible for what he did here. That's the role that he won't deal with. And that's why Spirit is encouraging this person to move away. This like partner, whoever's like left, to move away because they are not safe there. Not just because of him, but because of these like weird people that think that they're empathic, but they supercharge an abuser. No. So, that's what I'm getting. This has already been a long reading. I'm going to leave that there. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.